I'm going to be sharing with you why sometimes you should not trust your feelings. Why sometimes you should stop trusting your feelings entirely and go into action instead. Because what happens is that depending on where we're at, and this is going to sound completely counterintuitive, or not counterintuitive, but it's going to go against everything that I've taught on this channel. If you've been following me for a while, you're probably thinking like, what? Why? Like, you would not expect that I put a title like this on my channel. But what I've realized is that there's a time and place to trust your feelings, and there's also a very valid time and place to not. Now, I will say though, before I go into this video, my intuition is something that I trust in a very large majority of the time. So don't get me wrong with this video. Trusting my intuition is one of the things that I invite every single person to do on this planet, because your intuition knows best. But I think that there's a time and place, less than more often, in my experience at least, but it could be different for each person, where it's time to say, screw your feelings and be more logical. And I'm going to share with you why this is the case, how to know when this is the case, and when exactly you should stop trusting your intuition, stop trusting your feelings, and go into a more quote-unquote logical state instead. So this is going to be why sometimes you should stop trusting your feelings, especially when it comes to the manifestation process, or just anything in life, really. So, and this is going to apply to anything more than just manifestation, but because manifestation is about feelings, but again, I'm just talking about the exception here, where sometimes it's just the case where maybe the feelings are misleading us. So if you're new to this channel, what I want you to do is I want you to hit that subscribe button. I want you to hit that notification bell, because I do post a new video every single day. Also, if you want to work with me one-on-one personally, hit the link that's in the description box of this video to apply for a free consultation. I also do have a group program starting very soon, so if you want to be a part of the program, or if you want more details on the program, the link will be in the description box of this video for more details on that as well. So what's the first thing that we can do to understand when it's time to stop trusting in our feelings? When it's time to step back into our masculine power and take control, because it's a very valid place to be sometimes. Being in your masculine power can be just as important as your feminine power. And so what we want to do is understand that sometimes what I found is that action can actually change your feelings. I want you to consider this for a second. Has there ever been a moment in your life where you really didn't feel like doing something, but you mustered up the will to do it anyways, and then before you know it, in the process of doing that thing, you start to get into the flow state? Sometimes having a very powerful frame of being in the masculine and having structure and having routine then will help you to feel more in the flow. So for example, right now, I'm in a space in my life where I can really trust my intuition most of the time. But I can't say that it's always been the case. I remember when I started meditating a couple years ago, I had to force myself a little bit to do meditation, even when I didn't feel like it. But now, it's almost like when I don't do meditation or do the self-care practices, I start to feel drained and exhausted. And so that's me learning to trust, okay, what's exhausting me? What makes me feel good? But that's not how it started. So sometimes action can lead to better feelings. Sometimes having an integrated masculine can lead us to have a more powerful feminine. So the more that we can trust in our masculine will, the more that we can push when we need to, the more that you can have a flow state in your life as well. Because if you had no order, if you had no structure, if you had no logic in your life, there's nothing to counterbalance that and to be in your feminine. Feminine is letting go, trusting, feeling, allowing, intuition, trusting in the higher power. But sometimes action can lead you to that. Sometimes having action can bring you to a flow. For example, if I schedule a call, I show up no matter what. Because if I show up to that call, I'm gonna get into the flow, even if I don't feel like it. Now I've got to the point now, I only schedule a call if I feel like it and know I'm gonna wanna do it. But sometimes there's that odd place where, hey, I don't really feel like doing this, but I just do it anyways, because I've learned that when I do it, I feel good. And so that me learning that makes me want to be even more masculine and push, because it's very easy for me to push because I know it's going to feel better. I know that not pushing will make me feel worse. So it's like my intuition has told me now, after a long period of time of going in this direction of, okay, now my intuition actually tells me if I push, I'll feel better. My intuition knows that. My feelings are saying, hey, go in this direction, even though it might not fully feel good. Now, maybe that's a logical thing. That's what I'm saying. It's not a feeling. Sometimes it's my mind knowing that my feelings will change if I step into action. And so action doesn't always have to be this thing that creates resistance. It can just be a very simple act of knowing that you need to go in this direction. Knowing that it's time to pick up the phone or to record the video. Again, the examples that I always give in my videos are the things that I do in my life. But you might be doing something totally unique in your life, and I invite you to notice where maybe if you take more action, where will you start to feel better? If you take more action, where will you start to feel better? I remember that when I was moving to this place, for example, I took a month off of recording videos. And it was funny because the more I didn't record videos, because I needed that time to process, to move in, to move all my stuff and all that. And there was just a lot happening. So after 8 months of recording daily, I said, hey, you know what? I'm gonna take a little bit of a break. And it was funny because the more I didn't record, the less I wanted to do it. But then when I started recording, the more I wanted to do it. The more I take action, the more I can step into the flow and the more I want to do things. Sometimes your feelings can change when you take action. It's like, oh my God, doing this is going to be so draining. Not really. A lot of the times, thinking about how draining something is going to be is more draining than being in the action of what it is that you were thinking of doing. So thinking about working on your projects, yeah, that's going to be pretty goddamn draining if I say so myself. But actually being in the flow, in the action of the thing is not draining. In fact, I get energy when I'm in the flow of a video. My energy gets higher, but thinking about recording a video, that drops my energy. So remember that sometimes action can actually change your emotional state. Even though you might not feel like doing it, it can change your state. It can make you be at a higher level of consciousness. Literally, action has a negative connotation, I think, when it comes to a spiritual community, the spiritual community, or so to speak, or not spiritual community, but the spiritual perspective that we can project upon action. It's like, oh, action's bad, you know? Not really. Action has put me into the flow every single day of my life for the last year and a half. And I think if I didn't take action, I would be at a lower level of consciousness right now. I truly believe that. I think action put me at a higher level of consciousness and raised my frequency. That's what I think. I think that sometimes taking action and not listening to my feelings has given me a higher frequency. Now this is kind of debatable because maybe there was a deep feeling of intuition in my heart that told me if I take that action, I'll feel better. But I'm gonna be honest with you, I don't think it started like that. I think it was my mind knowing that I have to push, and then the feeling came. And so that's where you learn to develop your intuition as well. It has to start with a little bit of action sometimes when you're starting meditation or starting a new project or stepping into something new. The logic can be the foundation, and then your feelings begin to change. And now the second thing I want to share with you as well is that, I kind of already shared this with you, but structure and flow can allow you, like structure and order, and having an order in your life can actually help you to be more feminine. So some people think like, oh, if I take too much action, if I work too hard, if I do too much, if I have too much order, too much structure, that's not spiritual, because spirituality is about letting go, right? Spirituality is about not having structure, not having order. I would argue against that. I would say that if you want to be truly spiritual, you have to honor the fact that you also are part of the masculine of life. If you're only in the feminine, that's an imbalance. Now, if you want to go into the feminine and your soul feels called to do that, then I would invite you to do that. I'm not here to tell you how to live your life. I personally like to live somewhere in the middle where my masculine is being honored and my feminine is being honored. Maybe you feel called to imbalance, and that's your balance in that moment, to do tons of meditation, no doing in the world, go inwards for a couple months. Hey, if you feel called to do that, then trust your intuition. But personally for me, the highest levels of consciousness I've ever been at least, not always, but sometimes, is when my masculine was balanced. Now you see, the reason I hesitated there is because sometimes the imbalance can happen where I move way into the feminine to learn certain lessons, but then the key is to take that feminine energy and then integrate it back into the masculine, and then back and forth. I go masculine, bring it back into the feminine. You go into feminine, bring it back into the... It's a beautiful game. And what I found is that the more that I integrate into the masculine, the more it gives me an opportunity to go back into the feminine. So even though I hesitated, I think it's still true, because the more that I structure my life in an orderly fashion, the more I have an opportunity to be really in my feminine. So for example, if my survival needs aren't taken care of, if I have no money, if I have no abundance in my life, if I have no structure, meditation might be harder to get to a very higher level at, or being in the flow in my videos is going to be a lot harder if I don't have a good space to do so. Now again, this is just a half truth, because there's been times in my life where my life was completely out of order and I had an awakening experience. But it just depends on where you're at in life. This is why I say sometimes, not always, but sometimes trusting your feelings is something that might hold you back in that moment. So I'm not saying always, I'm saying in each specific moment that we're in life, there's infinite possibilities and different ways to level up in your consciousness. And sometimes taking action can be the thing that your soul needs to get to a higher level of feeling good versus trusting in what your feelings tell you. It all depends on the present moment, because we live in a universe with infinite possibilities in each moment. So maybe sometimes that won't work. What I'm saying right now, this video might be the wrong video for you, but it could be the perfect video for you, because we live in an infinite universe. So structure and masculine energy can bring more space to be in the feminine sometimes. And it works both ways sometimes too. The more feminine I have, the more I can be my masculine. The more I learn to have order in my life, the more I have an opportunity to feel way, way, way better. And the more that I learn to let go and to trust the process and to go deep into my feminine, the more I also have order in my life. I notice that the more I trust my feelings, the more I automatically have structure and order that's almost just seamless, just perfect. And the more that I have order, the more that I have a space to be feminine. So we always want to honor both the masculine and the feminine components of life when we're living on this planet. Because if you honor both, personally for me, that is the way I have the most fulfilling life. Now, it could be different for you. Again, I'm not here to say that every single human being has to live like this, because maybe people feel called to be very action-oriented or very feminine-oriented, to go into a cave or do a meditation retreat and just meditate for months, for a whole month. That imbalance might be part of your soul mission to go back and bring it into the masculine later. But eventually the energies will polarize and you'll have to go back into the masculine. Or you meditate so deeply that you transcend this dimension and you go to the next life or something. I don't know. But the thing is though, everything will balance itself. Even if it doesn't balance in this life, in the next life it'll balance out. If you believe in reincarnation, which of course I do, because we are infinite consciousness and infinite spiritual beings. So what you want to understand is that structure and order can help you to be more feminine. That's the second point that I wanted to bring into and stress, so to speak. And now the third thing is pretty much what I just said. I don't know why I wrote it 3 times. When we can, basically the point of this video, and I don't want to make this more complicated than it really is that what I would invite you to ask, I guess the third point is just going to be a question. Where in your life do you feel that maybe if you just take the action, you'll start to feel better? For example, meditation. Maybe you've never done, for me right now, meditation. If I don't do meditation, I'll feel more shit. Straight up. If I don't do my self-care practices, I'm very sensitive. My energy is extremely sensitive. If I don't manage my energy, because I'm very sensitive to energy, I will get to a very low state of consciousness, a very low frequency, and it'll start to feel really bad. But for some people, even the thought of meditation can be very exhausting and draining. But let me ask you this, if you were to start meditating, do you think that maybe your feelings would change, even though you don't feel like it right now? Do you think that maybe if you start working on your business and what you love to do, then maybe you would start to get into the flow? Do you think that maybe the thing you're scared to take action on is only a fear in your mind, whereas the act of actually doing and being in the moment while you're doing is not scary at all? Where in your life do you feel that there is a lack of masculine energy, a lack of creation and pushing your energy out into the world? Because it's just as valid as the feminine. Because again, I like to integrate both, but I would invite you to think about where in your life can you take more action. Yes, we are spiritual beings. Yes, letting go is the key. But maybe you need to take more action to have more space to let go. And so really, I invite you to think about this. Because this might sound simple, but maybe you've been holding off on doing something. Maybe if you finally own the goddamn thing you've been wanting to do and take action, maybe then you'll have a spiritual awakening. Looking back at my journey, some of the biggest goddamn spiritual awakenings I've ever had in my life is when I pushed myself to record videos and to step into my purpose, so to speak. Think about that. Think about that for a second. I really can tell you right now that some of the biggest awakenings I've ever had were in the act of moving towards what I love to do. And also when I kind of pushed myself to meditate when I started 5 years ago, when I didn't feel like it. So now, yeah, I just trust my intuition, but did it start like that? Some people are like, oh, I'll finally get to a higher vibration, then I can start working on my business. Wait, what if working on your business would actually increase your vibration? What if taking action on the thing you think you're waiting to take action on when you get to a higher vibration is actually you're going to get to that vibration when you take the action? I invite you to think about that. So that's all I have for this video. Once again, if you want to work with me one-on-one personally, as always, hit the link that's in the description box of this video to apply for a free consultation. I also do have a group program coming up really soon, so if you want to be a part of the program or if you want more details on the program, the link will be in the description box of this video for more details on that as well. Okay, so that's all I have for this video. As always, have yourself a great day. If any of these points resonated with you, leave a comment down below if you've ever experienced anything like this. As always, have yourself a great day, and of course, hit the like button. As always, have yourself a great day, and I'll see you in the next video.